My name is Amit Lal. I'm a professor of electrical engineering at Cornell University. I work in the area of MEMS and microsystems, in particular focused on micropower generation and developing new kinds of sensors and actuators for different applications. My own group works on trying to use radioisotopes to enable some of the sensing capabilities, so the overall power consumption of the sensor is greatly reduced. But I think the more promising avenue is that with a little bit of active energy on chip, like radioisotope, for example, one could make a generalized sensor that is able to measure something like 90% of things out there. It might take a little bit more area. It might not give you the exact sensitivity you need for one application, but use of it as a general purpose sensor might lead to huge volumes and therefore kind of have a Moore's law effect on sensors themselves. That's it was not possible to even think about a few years ago, but I think now that MEMS is becoming a little bit more mature by going to the next step of adding energy sources and mixing and processing the data, it may be possible to make a generalized sensor like that. The growth of sensors is happening at a very high rate because of wireless communications. The more people can connect small sensors wirelessly, the more there's a sort of addiction to putting sensors every place where you could measure something. And that is leading to the problem that sensors are too expensive sometimes compared to the wireless transmission circuitry. Over the last 30 years, with continued miniaturization of the microprocessors, microcontrollers, and because of the mass markets, people have greatly focused on trying to reduce the power consumption and the cost of the processing and the RF transmission, because that's related to Moore's law. But if you look at, has that same scaling happened for sensors? That has just not happened, because sensors tend to be specialized. So if you look at any modern system, the sensor ends up costing something like $5 or $6 or $20, whereas the computer chip itself is only a couple of bucks. So that has to be relieved in order for the sensors to really proliferate in the future. We can definitely collect too much data. On the other hand, there's a lot of data to be collected, for example, for the environment and for figuring out whether things are running efficiently. I think there the sensors are more important and we are not over-sensed. But on the other hand, having so many video cameras all over the place to measure activity and having terabytes of data being stored and a lot of energy being consumed to store all of that data is a bit like storing waste nuclear waste. You know, some places got to go and somebody's got to pay for it. Of course, it's not, the comparison is not fair, but the point of it is that terabytes of data stored someplace is consuming electricity to store and process, and that's an effect on the hit on the environment. So if there were, for example, smarter sensors or cameras that only measured when necessary, yeah, well, my students are my lab. You know, they work tirelessly to get absolutely amazing results. I like to instill in them that basically the PhD is about, for once in their lifetime, coming up with something completely new, which is an addictive phenomena. So once they do it once, I think they get addicted, and even when they leave my lab, they tend to try to keep discovering new things. That's I think, I'm proud of that in my lab, and the students are up to that challenge. I mean, they come and they initially want to solve some problems, but then they realize what they really have to do is come up with something new. And that whole interaction process is very, very energy consuming, and sometimes it seems like, why do they have to do that? But at the end of the day, I think everybody benefits by having that kind of energy in society. I basically give students a menu of things they could possibly attack and let their personal instincts take over, and it's basically around third year they realize, oh my God, I just made a discovery, and from that they just I don't have to tell them anything. They're in the lab all the time and they do their work.